Hello, crafty friends. I'm Doreen DeCebus from It Begins with Ink and Paper, and welcome to Simply Stamping Sunday. I don't know about where you live, but today was a really hot one. Another one. My goodness, it's incredible how hot it got tonight. Today, it's 6 o'clock and it still hasn't dropped below 90 degrees, so it's been a warm one. Welcome. So we are on week 2 of using the Prairie Grass Stamp Set. I'm just having such a great time with this stamp set, and it's great for making masculine cards. Just to review, last week we used every single stamp in the stamp set, including the sentiments, and we made these 3 cards. Just as a quick review, we used a lot of black, and we used a little bit of old olive ink and paper, but we made some very simple cards. No designer series paper, none of that. Tonight we are going to be using designer series paper to create some really fabulous, gorgeous cards. They are showstoppers with just using ink and paper, and of course stamps. Last week I used all of these sentiments. They are sentiments that really are for someone who's going through a rough time, someone who's lost someone close to them. So tonight I'm going to change it up, and we're going to use the Right Word stamp set. This has just about everything in it, and it's a great sentiment stamp set to have on hand. So let's move those out of the way and let's get started. So my, I guess you could say card sketch is going to be pretty similar. So this is what we need for tonight. You need 3 pieces of basic white cardstock that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Remember, I'll post all of these measurements in the comments on my Facebook post, and I will post it in the description of my YouTube post. Then you are going to need 3 sheets of basic white that measure 4 by 5 1/4. And you're just going to need some scraps for some sentiments. So I just have, this is 1 inch. I'll be trimming it down. This one I think is 3/8. So this is just 3/8 of an inch wide. You're going to need 3 card bases, and I chose colors that are that match the designer series paper. So I have a piece of Lost Lagoon, a piece of Misty Moonlight, and a piece of Calypso Coral. They all measure 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. So those will be our card bases. And then I actually chose these pieces first, and then I matched cardstock to go with them. But I took out of the Thoughtful Journey designer series paper, there are 6 by 6 pieces. I took out 3 pieces that I wanted to stamp on. Both sides of the paper is just gorgeous, but this is the side with all the colors that I wanted to do. So what I think we're going to do is start stamping first. So let me just move some of this out of the way. I'm going to leave these 2 pieces because we're going to stamp them. And let me just get out some paper because I might go over. So I'm going to start with the one with the, let me show you what we're making since I haven't shown you that. Here's our first card. So pretty. I love these cards. I just love them. So this one uses just one of the stamps from the stamp set, and then just a simple greeting here. The second one uses actually 2 of the stamps from the stamp set. I'll show you how I did that, just to add some filler to it. And then my final one uses all 3 of the stamps, and really is a full and lush set of different grasses. So those are the cards that we're going to be making tonight. So starting with this one right here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to want some of this paper for the inside of my card as well, but I'm going to start, I'm just using Memento black ink tonight. And so I'm going to ink this up. I'm not going to worry if I have this going across evenly. It's okay if I don't. I'm going to start on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to keep inking this up and going side by side. It's okay if I'm a little higher, a little lower. I want them to overlap a little bit, so some will be closer than others. I think I'll have this one go just a little bit higher, so I'll put it up a little bit. And I think, so I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need one more. And that should be big enough for what I need to do. There we go. Okay, so that piece is all stamped. I'll cut this in just a minute. So let me just put that aside. So now we're going to work on our blue sheet. And on this one, as I said, I used 2 of the stamps. So the 2 that I used were the grass and the large one. So I'm going to start by inking up my grass. And I am just going to stamp this in, I think, 3 places. So there's the first one. I'm going to move over a little bit. Stamp the second one. And I can come back and add more if I want to. And then the third one. All right, now I'm going to get my really large one. And this one I'm going to, I just want to be careful that I don't ink up this edge here. So I'm just going to make sure I've inked everything up. And then I'm just going to turn this sideways, and I'm going to start stamping across the bottom, right over those grasses. So I'm going to ink this up again. Oops, let me get, there we go. And it's okay to overlap. It's okay to stamp it at different heights. Okay, there we go. Because again, I'm going to trim the bottom a little bit. And then I'm going to come right here and just go a little lower. And that should be enough. So you can see when we compare, let me just put this cover on. You can see when we compare the two, we have a lot of space here, and here the space is starting to fill up a little bit. So just to give you that idea. Now we're going to go to the third card, the third piece of paper, and we're going to use all 3 stamps. So I'm going to start with my grass again. And I'm just going to stamp a couple of these towards the bottom. I'm not going to use that in, so my big blender there won't matter. And the way I'm filling everything, it probably wouldn't matter anyway. So I'm going to put 3 of those across the bottom. Then I'm going to come in with my next stamp, and I'm going to add a couple of these. So I'm just trying to fill in, and then the larger stamp will fill over. Hi, Bonnie. Thanks for joining tonight. All right, so we'll put another one right there. And now we're going to go to our larger stamp and fill in going across. This is going to give us 3 very different looks the way I'm doing this. So again, just turning it on its side because it will work better. There we go. This is really going to be very lush when we're done. And then we're just going to continue. I'm going to go a little higher on this one. And a little lower on this one. Okay, it's looking pretty lush. All right, let's get my paper cutter out before we do any more stamping. And let's trim down these 3 pieces of our designer series paper. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make the bottom kind of even where the images are stamped. So there we go with that. I want this to be 4 inches wide. I'm going to cut a little edge off. And then cut this at 4. I'm going to cut it a little bigger than 4. Okay, so I'll set that piece aside. And then what I need this to be is 5 1/4. So I'm also going to cut a piece of the sky off. So, hi Barbara. So there's the main part of our first card. Set that aside. Okay, the next one. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut a little bit of the bottom off so that we don't really see where everything starts. I'm going to trim this one at 4 inches as well. And then I'm going to trim off 3/8 of an inch for the inside of the card. And trim this down to a little over 4, and then I can just trim it. So we'll set that one with the first one. And now we want this to be at 5 1/4 inches. So this one used just 1 stamp. This one used 2 of the stamps. We got a much fuller piece of the prairie grass, and this one's a little more open. Okay, now our third one. Hi, Barbara. It's okay that you're late. The stamp set is the prairie grass. This is the 2nd week of me using it, and tonight I am stamping on designer series paper and using the Thoughtful Journey designer series paper and making 3 cards with it. And all my stamping is going to pretty much be on the designer series paper. All right, so let me trim this one. So again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm trimming it at 4 and 5 1/4 to go on the front of the card. But for this one, I used all 3 stamps and made a really lush background. Okay, let's get some of this out of our way. I still have the greetings to stamp, and then we'll put all 3 cards together. So on this one, I'm going to stamp the greeting right up here on the card on the Designer Series paper. So I'm going to stamp it right on, and I'm stamping Sending Good Vibes. And I'm going to put this right up here towards the right side, and I wanted it to be in some of the Calypso coral. All right, that one's ready to go. Next, on this one, we are going to do the Thinking of You using the bigger piece of paper. And I'm going to trim this down afterwards. There we go. I'll take off some of that in just a minute. And then finally, this last one's going to be a birthday card. So I'm going to stamp Happy Birthday on it. And these are all from the Right Words stamp set. So I've got this little tiny piece of paper that measures just 3/8 wide. Oops, gonna have to go on the other side. Well, nope, I think I'll just cut another piece. I went a little too high on that. So let me just grab a scrap. And we'll just cut another 3/8 of an inch. Of course, when I was making this, it was not hard at all to stamp this on it. Isn't that always the way? Okay. That is much better. It's a little crooked. Is there room? Even better. So for this, I'll just use my paper snips to trim it. There we go. All right, so now let's fix this one, and then we'll be all set. So I want to make a banner on this one, so I'm going to leave a little bit of an end. Trim this a little bit off. The top looks good, so I'm just going to take some off the bottom. And there we go. And then I will use my snips to just make a little banner. Hi, Lynn. Thanks for joining tonight. All right. So let's get going. So we're going to get that white cardstock back. First thing we're going to do is attach these to this piece using some Stampin' Seal. So this again is 5 1/4 by 4. So the piece of basic white is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So it's just going to give it a little tiny bit of white, which I think is just perfect for these cards. My dad's 95th birthday, he would have been 95 this year, on August 23rd. He would have loved the birthday card I'm making. But I know someone else I'm going to give it to, and I think he'll like it too. Okay, that part's all done. Now we're going to just fold our cardstock. So this first one is Calypso Coral. The second one is Misty Moonlight. These are all great male colors too. And our last one, again, is Lost Lagoon. All right, so let's take these and put these on the front. And then we'll add our sentiments and add the inside. I'm not going to stamp anything on the inside tonight yet because I'd like to make them a little personalized for the people I'm going to send them to. So again, I just looked at the back of the package of the Thoughtful Journey Designer Series paper and found the colors that matched the papers that I selected. I selected the papers first, then the cardstock afterwards. Okay, so now let's add these pieces and we'll put them inside the cards. So again, as you know, the Simply Stampin' Sunday just uses stamps, ink, and paper, which I've done here. And I'm just adding this little strip to the bottom of each inside piece just to give it a little interest and to tie everything together. Next week with this set, we are going to be looking how we can create some backgrounds using ink to just add some beautiful color behind, behind these stamps. So if you want to follow along or try the technique, you will need a paintbrush. Yes, you are correct, Bonnie. The name of the set that I am using is Prairie Grass. It is, you can find it online. It is on back order, but next week it should be back and ready to be ordered again if you haven't ordered it yet. All right, there we go. Now we just have to put those on the inside and add our greeting. So here's our first one. It says, Sending Good Vibes. It's on the Calypso Coral cardstock. And we're just going to add this on the inside so we have a place to write our message. If we have a lot to write, then I'll just add another one there. So here is card number 1. Isn't that beautiful? I love this paper with this set. Okay, let's put that down. Card number 2 is going to be our Thinking of You. So let's add its inside piece, and then we'll grab some dimensionals and we will add the greeting to this one. When you're only using stamps, ink, and paper, you can make some pretty quick cards, but like I've said before, you don't need a lot of bling to have a beautiful card. And I think these cards show you that. Just get these backings off of the dimensionals. And I am going to put this one right up here in this opening. And there is card number 2. All right, now for our third card. This is the one that I used all 3 stamps. We have a really lush and thick bit of grass here, which just makes it so eye-catching. I'm using the Lost Lagoon paper, and this one's going to be a birthday card. So I'm going to just use this piece here to put on the back of it. And pop it up. And this one I think I'm going to put just a little lower. And that, my friends, is card number 3. Aren't these fabulous cards? So let's review again. Let me get that out of the way, get our dimensionals out of the way, our ink and stamps. So the first card used just 1 stamp and the greeting. The second card used 2 of the stamps, the grass, the shorter grass, and the higher grass. And card number 3 used all 3 of those stamp sets. They are just gorgeous being stamped on this designer series paper. I could use any color ink I want. I could have done it in a basic gray. I could have used, pebbled path. I could have used colored ink. And we still would have had, 3 gorgeous cards. So, thank you for joining me tonight. Don't forget to check out my Fun Fold Friday video if you haven't already, because I am going to be doing a giveaway, my first giveaway. So make sure you check out that video so that you know how to enter the giveaway. All right, this is this week. Next week, we'll be doing some watercoloring with a paintbrush and ink to make some great backgrounds to use with this stamp set. So thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next Friday night for Fun Fold Friday. Have a great week, everyone. Good night.